Welcome to 2004 MKT. In this topic, we examine sustainability and corporate social responsibility. At the end of this topic, you will be able to contextualise the alignment of sustainability development with corporate social responsibility, contextualise the concept triple bottom line, consider unsustainability as a global issue and a human activity, and contextualise the value of CSR as a reputation management process. So what is sustainability? Sustainability is the issues associated with depletion of Earth's resources and the using of those resources and the continual reuse of those resources. So specifically, sustainability refers to the ability of a system to maintain or to renew itself perpetually. Sustainability is a broad church, for it encompasses many issues which impact our lives, not only aspects of the environment associated with the water, the earth, capability to grow crops, etc., but also sustainability has broadened to include issues such as population growth and its effect on the environment, biodiversity, human rights and capability to work within environments, social inclusion, equality and diversity, to name a few issues. So the second point of sustainability is the ability to engage in sustainable development. So sustainable development is a form of development aimed at sustainable consumption and sustainable economic growth, and is a term that refers to protecting the environment. So it encompasses sustainable development, encompasses those activities that engage to protect the environment. In particular, much research is undertaken to examine patterns of resource use that not only meet human needs, but also aims to preserve the environment in the future so that these needs can be met in the present context, but also the indefinite future. So we refer to unsustainability as a global issue and a human activity. Developing sustainable production processes and adopting an ethical, sustainable perspective has risen as a key business activity. And as a result, unsustainable marketing practices and business practices in general have impacted in terms of a supply and demand issue. In the current context, it is argued and is evidence that resources in the environment, there's a continuous decline in the supply of natural resources within the ecosystem. But at the same time, there's a continuous increasing demand for those resources and services. And such resources refer to natural, ecosystem and ecological footprint issues. So from a natural resources issue refers to those resources that occur naturally in the environment, such as wood, water, soil, minerals, coal and petroleum. And these are continually declining in supply. There's also ecosystem services, and they're the collective activities of natural systems that renew themselves and actually sustain life. So if we don't protect these natural systems, the capability for renewal and engaging in ability to live on Earth will become unsustainable. And the ecological footprint is a process of measuring the amount of Earth's resources which are required to support a particular lifestyle. And many organisations engage in much research in order to evidence their ecological footprint in order to be able to identify where they can best address sustainability. So if you look at this slide, it continues to identify some of the key issues associated with why unsustainability is a global issue and a human activity. An ecosystem, we live in an ecosystem which is a dynamic community comprising of populations of plants, animals, microorganisms, and the non-living environment, which all interact together as a functional unit. We add people into this environment as well that actually engage and deplete that renewable process that occurs. Environmental factors such as soil type, position in the landscape, climate and water availability determine the presence and distribution of ecosystems. The main inputs to ecosystems are sunlight, soil, nutrients and water, while wastes from one part of the system form fuel for other parts. A key output is biomass or carbon-based life, regenerating itself. An ecosystem functions by continually cycling energy and materials through living organisms that grow, reproduce and then die. And this cycling of energy and materials through living organisms has evolved in response to a mix of disturbances, fires and floods, or stresses such as droughts or disease, and ecological interactions such as competition or predation over millions of years. Recent changes in the frequency and intensity of these disturbances and stresses raises important issues about the ability of species and ecosystems to survive and adapt. And the people contact, the people input into this process has severely impacted the natural regeneration of life in a natural way. And so after many years of people interacting into a natural environment, we're now identifying that there are key impacts that impact our ability to live as naturally as possible in the near future. So there are key issues that refer to consumption in terms of climate change, the atmosphere, water, land and biodiversity. And the key aspect of biodiversity is the environment, including animals, as well as human animals, plants and microorganisms, to assemble within ecosystems and to provide the ecosystem with resources able to renew itself. So changes in and the loss of biodiversity directly influences the capacity of an ecosystem to produce and supply essential services and can affect the long-term ability of ecological, economic and social systems to adapt and respond in global pressures. So from a marketing perspective, we have sustainability on one hand, and there's a huge issues associated with sustainability. And then we have marketing practices which aim to counter the effect of unsustainable practices. And corporate social responsibility is one of these activities that aims to contribute to sustainable development by delivering economic, social and environmental benefits for all stakeholders. CSR is a self-regulating business model that helps a company to be socially accountable to itself, its stakeholders and the public. By practicing CSR, which is also called corporate citizenship, companies can be conscious of the kind of impact that they're having on all aspects of society, including economic, social and environmental. To engage in CSR means that in the normal course of business, a company is operating in ways that enhance society and the environment instead of contributing negatively to it. The way that CSR is understood and implemented across organisations differs greatly. So what is meant by social and environmental benefits? Well, CSR in itself is a very broad concept that addresses many and various topics such as human rights, corporate governance, health and safety, environmental effects, working conditions and contribution to economic development. Whatever the definition is, the purpose of CSR is to drive change towards sustainability. Although some companies may achieve remarkable efforts with unique CSR initiatives, it is difficult to be on the forefront of all aspects of CSR. Considering this, let's look at Unilever. Unilever is a multinational corporation in the food and beverage sector with a comprehensive CSR strategy. The company is ranked food industry leader in the Dow Jones Sustainability World Indexes for the 11th consecutive years and ranked 7th in the global 100 most sustainable organisations in the world. One of the major and unique initiatives is the Sustainable Tea program. On a partnership-based model with the Rainforest Alliance, Unilever aims to source all of its Lipton and tea bags from the Rainforest Alliance certified farms. The Rainforest Alliance certification offers farms a way to differentiate their products as being socially, economically and environmentally sustainable. So in essence, CSR activities are organisational initiatives that aim to achieve their stated sustainability objectives and to contribute positively to the environment. So how do we measure corporate social responsibility? The triple bottom line encompasses organisational responsibility across 3 dimensions: profit, planet and people. First of all, we've got profit. Profit refers to an organisation's ability to contribute to the economic system and to provide for all human needs. Point 2, the planet, is an organisation's environmental responsibility, which refers to the preservation of essential ecosystems and their functions to do with water, water supply, manufacturing processes, land renewal, etc. And the people aspect is referred to as the social sustainability. And that is the ongoing ability of communities to provide for their well-being for all their members through equitable work practices, to equity issues and many other issues that encompass employee well-being. So normally a company's bottom line is its income statement, is its net income. But essentially, the idea is to extend an organisation's bottom line beyond only its economic responsibilities. And we see emerging through the 1970s in particular, organisations are being blamed and shamed for their adverse impact on society and on the environment. So there's been a huge shift over the last 30 to 40 years in terms of organisations actually making a profit, but also contributing more broadly to society. So the phrase triple bottom line was coined in 1994 by John Elkington and later used in his book. But the key challenge with the bottom line, according to Elkington, is the difficulty of measuring the social and environmental bottom lines, which necessitates the 3 separate accounts being evaluated on their own merits. And we talk about how to measure corporate social responsibility / sustainability in terms of the frameworks and reporting outcomes, which are the other 2 videos. So it can be challenging to maximise financial returns while also doing greatest good for people in an environment. So consider a clothing manufacturer whose best way to maximise profits might be to hire the least expensive labour possible and dispose of manufacturing waste in the cheapest way possible. The result might be the highest possible profits for the company, but miserable working and living conditions for labourers and damage to the natural environment and people who live in that environment. In the past, such practices were relatively socially acceptable. But today, many consumers are willing to pay more for clothing and other products if it means that workers are paid a living wage and the environment is being respected in the production process. Many consumers want companies to be transparent about their practices and to be considerate of all their stakeholders, hence the popularity of the triple bottom line concept that accounts for full cost of doing business. Adding the people element of social responsibility to corporate bottom lines shifts the focus to fair treatment of employees and off-site labour, as well as enacting favourable practices in communities where companies conduct business. For example, Mars Sustainable Cocoa Initiative requires its cocoa farmers to be certified by fair trade organisations to ensure they follow a code of conduct that includes fair treatment of those providing labour. In exchange for certification, Mars provides productivity technology and buys cocoa at a premium price. By adding planet, represents the implementation of sustainable practices and reduction of environmental impact. These measures range in scope from green initiatives such as recycling programs within corporations to companies dedicated to manufacturing products using only sustainable materials. For example, Axion Structural Innovation builds railroad ties and pilings using recycled plastic bottles and industrial waste instead of using standard materials such as wood, steel and cement. So adding social and environmental responsibilities can have a positive effect on organisations' financial bottom line. A Nielsen report released in October 2015 found 73% of millennials, which represent the largest consumer demographic, were willing to pay more for sustainable goods, which is an increase of 46% from the year before. The study found that 56% of consumers were willing to pay more for products offered by companies that were committed to social values. In addition to growing revenues, companies are integrating social and environmental standards within corporate governance policies, which can reduce the chances of brand-damaging events and mishaps. In addition to governance benefits, the transformation to a triple bottom line is increasingly seen as a vital factor in building corporate brands and goodwill, which represents 30% of the value of companies on average. So corporate social responsibility is vital not only for the environment and society, but also for an organisation's reputation. Corporate citizenship, or CSR, matters because companies typically have great resources to enact real and positive change. But beyond the satisfaction of knowing that organisations are bettering the world, what's in it for companies? The answer to that question is quite a lot, and for a lot it has to do with building great reputation. The most important benefit of CSR and corporate citizenship is trust. Simply put, if a company does not do the right thing environmentally and socially, consumers will feel that they can trust them, that they can trust them to do the right thing in all situations. Further, when consumers purchase a product, they feel that they're directly responsible for how that product was made, for better or worse. Commendable CSR strategies improve consumer trust, voluntary recommendations, as well as builds brand sentiment, all of which can lead to increased revenue for small businesses and corporations. Socially responsible businesses also build a buffer against scandals and other reputation busters. When online publishers hear about your good deeds, they're more likely to write positive articles about those brands. And the effect is further amplified if organisations actively promote their sustainability CSR activities. So, the Reputation Institute has recently found that a higher corporate responsibility ranking leads to more supportive consumer behaviours, and this translates into huge benefits for brands. For example, 92% of consumers have a more positive image of companies that support social issues and environmental efforts. 63% of the public would give socially responsible businesses the benefit of doubt during a crisis. 87% will purchase a product because the company advocated for an issue that they cared about. 66% of consumers are willing to pay extra to patronise companies that are committed to CSR. And there's an average of 3.2 times increase in trust when a company's reputation score goes from average to excellent. So have a look at the Reputation Institute and look at the most recent reports. So what are the common examples of CSR that organisations actually address? Well, the most common examples are reducing carbon footprints to mitigate climate change, improving labour policies and embracing fair trade, engaging in charitable giving and volunteering within communities, changing corporate policies to benefit the environment, making socially and environmentally conscious investments, and reducing carbon footprints and climate change. So let's look at some examples of CSR and reputation building. So first, BMW. BMW holds its pride in being one of the most socially responsible companies in its industry. BMW has set the bar high with a goal of helping over 1 million people by 2020. And they plan to do this by creating programs such as the School's Environmental Education Development Program, which helps raise awareness of social and environmental issues amongst schools. BMW's key to CSR success has always been alignment, and they're a great example of corporate social responsibility because of their balance between a good business model and helping social causes. Levi Strauss is another company that focuses its efforts on CSR. Levi's approach is to reduce their environmental footprint by acting in human rights and environmental causes. Levi's has a worker well-being initiative that's aimed to help improve the life of their employees, and they have also trademarked their Water Less campaign by using less water when manufacturing their products. And they've saved over 1 billion litres of water and hope to better improve their manufacturing processes by 2020. SurveyMonkey, best known for their survey creation software, has created a giving back program to better improve their social responsibilities. They've done this by engaging in an innovative way to give back. Instead of giving out prizes to survey takers, SurveyMonkey donates 50 cents for every survey completed. The donation goes to the survey taker's charity of choice, and the company has donated over $1 million to organisations such as the Boys and Girls Club of America and the Humane Society. Starbucks Coffee has engaged in sustainable, ethical and social responsibilities since the beginning of its existence in 1971. Starbucks aims at creating a product that is not only beneficial to its customers, but also to the environment. With the start of the CAFE program, Starbucks has set guidelines to increase product quality, social and economic responsibility, and environmental management. Partnering with Ethos Water, Starbucks is helping bring clean water to over 1 billion people who don't have access to it. Ben & Jerry's, like Starbucks, was initiated on a foundation of social justice. They've kept true to themselves throughout their evolution, and to accomplish their CSR goals, Ben & Jerry created the Ben & Jerry Foundation, which sets the bar high by giving 7.5% of its pre-tax profits to charitable organisations around the world. Ben & Jerry's strives to show deep respect for human beings, whether they work for the company or not, and have donated over $2 million to multiple organisations in the hopes to have a positive impact on society. So some more examples. Bosch invests half of its research and development budget in environmental protection technology. In 2016, General Electric donated $88 million to community and educational programs. And Starbucks, an additional CSR activity is to hire 25,000 veterans before 2025. The new Belgian brewing company strives to be a sustainable business by using solar panels to power their bottling plant, as well as their digester and wastewater processes. And they want to convert their wastewater into energy. Their employees also use bikes to get around the brewery complex. Financial giant Wells Fargo sets an annual goal to donate up to 1.5% of its revenue to charitable causes such as NeighbourWorks. And they also give their employees two paid days off a year to volunteer, which is indicative of a growing trend among corporations, particularly in the US. Over half of the Fortune 100's best companies to work offer paid leave, specifically to encourage their workers to give back to their local community. Netflix offers their employees 52 weeks of paid parental leave, which applies to both parents. Within that time, employees have the option of going back to work and then resuming their paid leave as it suits them. No matter how they choose to take their leave of absence, they receive their full salary for the entirety of its duration. And so there are also some other ways that social responsible activities that organisations can engage in. Holding an annual tree planting event, setting up recycling bins throughout organisations, minimise the amount of paper waste, permit remote work to reduce the negative impact on commuter traffic, switch from incandescent light bulbs to energy-saving LED bulbs, and to make socially environmentally conscious investments. So we've come to the end of our sustainability and corporate social responsibility lecture. You're now familiar with understanding the relationship between sustainability and CSR. You've got a good understanding of the application of the triple bottom line. You've got a good understanding of unsustainability as a global issue and human activity, and you're able to contextualize the link between CSR and reputation management. Thank you.